All right, so this is actually going to be a fairly short webinar, and then we're going to open it up to some live Q&A at the end of today's web presentation. So again, we start with a little background and context here, and I'm going to do it one more time, and I'll do it really quickly. Inksoft is a software company, and we've been in business for 11 years. And in June of 2009, we acquired Digital Art Solutions, which has been around in the industry for ages, almost 28 years. And in fact, Digital Art Solutions is known as the company that invented stock production-ready vector graphics for the industry. So once we started working with our friends at Digital Art Solutions, we realized there was a new opportunity. Nobody had addressed some fundamental problems in our industry, and we decided we would be the organization and really create a brand new product altogether that solved some of the inefficiencies and bottlenecks that we see really centered around art content. And of course, every apparel decorator, every promotional product distributor, every print entrepreneur has these problems in common. So really excited to be able to address fundamental challenges that no company has ever successfully chosen to solve for. So let's kind of dig in. I want to set the stage as it relates to fundamentally what GraphicsFlow is, and then we're going to actually get into the platform, and I'll take you through a tour of the interface and kind of the workflow, and give you some very specific insights into how you can use GraphicsFlow to gain some major efficiencies and even help to make impact on your sales. So with that said, what is GraphicsFlow? Well, fundamentally, this is what we call a graphics productivity tool. And what productivity means, that can mean a number of things, right? Time savings, cost savings, dealing with inefficiencies and bottlenecks and converting those things into what's known as non-bottlenecks, right? And so we'll give specific insights into what we mean by graphics platform and productivity platform as we go. But fundamentally, I want to sort of break down, and I'll use our website to do this, the four major pillars, or really four major workspaces that come in the GraphicsFlow application. And this will grow over time. So this is our V1. We're just getting started with GraphicsFlow. And I want to make it very clear that we've staffed and we have an entirely dedicated development team, including product design, product engineering, and of course, development, staffed so we can continue to grow GraphicsFlow from a new feature enhancement and really address any kind of customer feedback or ideas that come in. So we're excited about rapidly accelerating and growing GraphicsFlow and doing that in concert with you, our customer. All right, so what are these four major pillars that make up GraphicsFlow today? Well, the first thing that we're going to showcase is GraphicsFlow Drive, which is a much better way to store and manage and organize, and most importantly, find the right graphic at the right time to get the job done. So we've seen decorators and print entrepreneurs use Google Drive and Dropbox and all sorts of third-party solutions to store and manage graphic files, including hard drives and local networks. And there's some major challenges with those third-party solutions. And the most obvious thing is those solutions are not built for our industry. So if I upload a Photoshop file or a CorelDRAW file or an Illustrator or a vector file into Google Drive, it doesn't generate a preview. It doesn't tell me much information about that file. Thusly, I am forced to download that file and open it in graphic design software just to determine what it is and the composition of the file. That's just wasted time. Furthermore, that requires that your staff has graphic design software. So if I'm a sales rep and I don't know my way around CorelDRAW or Illustrator, I have to then nudge a graphics designer or somebody on the team to get me the right file. You can just see there's tremendous amount of inefficiencies simply, as a result of not being able to see a file and access that file to get my job done. So we're really excited to solve some of the, maybe not so obvious, but some of the problems as it relates to just storing and managing content. We'll give you some more specific insights into what those tools have to offer. So GraphicsFlow Drive is the way to organize and manage files. And the real upside of having a better solution to manage and organize beyond the efficiencies is not losing content, not worrying about a hard drive going bad, not worrying about a disgruntled employee taking content or deleting content. So from a security and from a safekeeping perspective, this is really what's called technically as a digital asset management tool, managing assets which are critical to your business, customer supplied art, creative graphics that you're creating on behalf of your customer. These things are absolutely fundamentally essential and are really prized assets for the business. And so having the best possible way to manage and organize those is mission critical. Now, the next major thing that comes in GraphicsFlow is the GraphicsFlow Art Library. And this is one of the things we're most excited about, is leveraging the entire or nearly entire library from Digital Art Solutions. And Digital Art Solutions spent 28 years building this library. I can't even tell you how many millions of dollars were required to develop this production-ready vector-based art content. And the recognition was there was just a better way to distribute and make this art content available. So the GraphicsFlow library is this vast and robust library of graphic content that is keyword searchable. It's organized by category, subcategory, and by style. And I'll show you how to leverage and find art content to get the right job done. Now, the other thing I want to point out is, of course, GraphicsFlow approvals. This is technology to allow you to do two fundamental things. The obvious thing, which is to send an art approval to your customer or your prospective customer to get 3 C's accomplished: to communicate, to collaborate, and of course to, create is the first step. And that's to build an art approval and an art presentation to then get that level of collaboration going. Making sure your clients see content or options or ideas to approve, reject, and comment, to be involved in the conversation in one simple interface. Moreover, in a digital interface. So the days of attachments and PDFs and email back and forth that are endless and confusing and clunky are gone. Now, I'm most excited about GraphicsFlow Art Approvals from the perspective of using it as a tool to communicate graphic ideas and options to get a prospective customer excited about working with me. So we're going to talk about in today's webinar how to use graphics and graphic presentations to pitch and present and compel prospective customers to choose you to do business with. And I'll show you how this will add massive competitive differentiation and capabilities to your business. Now, the fourth and final component before we actually get into the platform is GraphicsFlow Art Plus. Now, once we made this acquisition with Digital Art Solutions, one of our first orders of business was to develop a monthly ongoing delivery of fresh new art content. And this is something that Digital Art Solutions had some experience with and had some success with. And so what we determined is with GraphicsFlow, we're going to deliver a monthly installment of fresh, innovative, retail-inspired, bleeding-edge graphics. And so you can be assured that every single month you will get trends and styles and content that you can use to power new sales opportunities. So here's a great example. There is going to be a massive demand for travel, for family reunions, family vacations, post-COVID. There's already signals of this. Airbnb is publishing, this data. Airfare bookings are way up. So the reality is there's this massive pent-up demand for the things that we've been denied during lockdown and during COVID, right? So if you don't have fresh, killer graphics for family reunion and family vacation, well, you might be at a disadvantage and lose out on some of that sales opportunity. So the value of ongoing fresh content means not only will you have the right styles that your customers see on Instagram or in social media or in pop culture, but you're going to have the thematic and sort of the category of content to leverage sales opportunities. And we'll showcase what that means as we get into the product. All right, so now that we've set the background in terms of what GraphicsFlow is, how it was invented, the major players that are behind GraphicsFlow, and you now know about the 4 major pillars that represent this technology, let's actually explore the interface and the individual workspaces. So here I am now in a new tab, and this is my account, my GraphicsFlow account. So I've signed in. First thing I'll point out is this is all web-based software. So there's nothing to ever download or install. The value of web-based software means you're always in the latest, greatest version of technology. So we will be automatically, deploying new enhancements and new features, sort of continuously. So there's no overhead, there's no management, there's nothing to worry about. In fact, you don't have to worry about your computer getting a virus or going bad. This is cloud-based software. It's accessible anytime and anywhere you have an internet connection from any device. So now that we've established the fact that this is cloud-based software, I'll also now introduce you to the interface. So when you log in for the first time, I'm just going to give you a quick orientation so you know where the key workspace function resides. So by default, when you log in, you'll be delivered to My Art. So this is, again, the GraphicsFlow Drive. This is where you will store, organize, and manage all of your content. Now, let me kind of break down what I mean by content. There's sort of a few sort of things to think about here. Content could be customer supplied logos and graphics. So think about those times where you're doing a job for a customer and they send to you a zip file with all of their logos, right? So that's customer supplied artwork. They might just need logo wear, or they want branded merchandise with their corporate identity on it. So customer supplied artwork is the artwork that is furnished to you, that is ready to go. The other major category of content is sort of the content you are creating on behalf of your customer. So think about those times where somebody comes to you saying, hey, we want to do a family reunion. We need some cool concepts. Can you help? That's an example of when you would need to create something and present something to compel them to commit and purchase from you. So regardless of the category of content, this is one workspace where you can organize and manage all of that content. And let me share with you the two ways that you can think about doing that. Way number one is creating sort of a digital management system. And we have a blog post where we suggest a best practice for managing your content. And this is really important. So if you adopt a system that is easy to understand, it's easy to train and enforce across your team, that just means you're going to be infinitely more successful in terms of, again, finding content when you need it. So the first thing I want to showcase here is this notion of the ability to create folders and subfolders. So a folder can be a parent folder by maybe the name of the client. So we'll use Tesla as an example here. And then I can create within that folder subfolders to manage individual projects. I can then create a folder within that project to manage files by production method. So this just gives you an infinite and very flexible way to catalog and organize files in a very logical way. Now, there's no wrong way to do it. We do have a best practice and we have a recommendation, but this is something that you can model to suit your preferences in your business. So I'm going to click into the Tesla folder, which already exists. So that's the parent folder. And then you can see within that parent folder, there are two subfolders, one to manage embroidery files and one to manage maybe print files. So again, this is one of those major upsides of the GraphicsFlow file management solution is you get a file preview. So I actually see the content. I don't see a generic thumbnail that would require me to download, open to determine what that file is. So that's, again, major upside here is the ability just to visualize and see content. Now, since we're talking about this notion of seeing and interacting with information to make good decisions, let me now sort of expose the ability to catalog and input additional information to manage your, again, assets. So number one, you can at any time rename a file. So think about those times where maybe you do get customer supplied artwork and it is a vector file, but it has some weird name convention that doesn't make any sense to you. There's no relevance there. So at any point in time, you can override the name of a file that you've created or uploaded, and you can build in reference. So I might want to name this Tesla single color vector file or whatever it might be. So that is now going to be more keyword searchable content. It's clear to my staff and my team, so we know how to discern one file from another. Now, right below is a description where you can input even more content to give, again, rationale and explanation, associate critical information that you want to stow with this file. Some people will choose to put in ink mixing instructions, maybe machine or press setup instructions, things like squeegee pressure, squeegee angle, all of those things that can make big impact if you have to reproduce or reprint this file. So we've learned in our time in business, the quality of data that a company has directly relates to the quality of output that they, derive. So garbage in, garbage out. The better information you store and manage, the better, sort of production data you'll have to, again, make quality imprints. Now, right below that is decoration method. And this is where you can build your dedicated and unique library of different imprint methods that you offer within your business. So here I can click add a decoration method. I can name a decoration method and create that. At any point in time, I can delete a method, or I can even edit to rename a decoration method. So the first thing I would encourage you to do is think about building all the decoration methods that you currently offer and label those in a way that are very clear to you and your team. And really, this gives you at every file the ability to tag or associate this file was created with the intention of being set up for screen print, which might be different than taking the same file and optimizing it for, say, a different decoration method. Now, you can also input the size in terms of width and height. You can choose your unit of measure, whatever is relevant to you. And you can also build in the different colors. So I could give this a color name. I could even input, in parentheses, maybe the PMS value. And I can choose a thumbnail to represent, this particular color of, that's in the design. So a great way to sort of catalog the different colors that are in the imprint and make that clear to your team. And then I can expose the file details, which showcase the original information, the dimension, when the file was created and modified, the name of the file originally. All that key information will be associated and be permanently stored with the uploaded file. So again, just giving some clear insights into the value of how GraphicsFlow Drive is different than, say, other file management solutions. You can see content, and then you can embed the proper, what we call art metadata, alongside that file. Now, in terms of folders, a few other things to point out. Folders, again, you can create unlimited sort of depth of parent, subfolder, child folder, so on and so forth. I also want to make the point that at any point in time, you can do a number of things like drag and drop one folder into another if you want to sort of combine those or collapse those into one another. I'll also point out, anytime you hover your mouse over a folder, you get the ability to select the folder, and then you're going to get some key actions. I can choose to move a folder into another. So whether you want to drag and drop or whether you want to navigate and choose to select a particular folder where you want to move. So a simple way to, again, make changes in the future and move folders when necessary. You also have the ability to download content, and you can delete a folder. And when I call out, it's pretty easy to delete content in systems. So we give you a lot of validation when you go to delete a file to make sure that you truly want to make that change. So there's a lot of validation that's involved to make sure you're not making the wrong decision or making a mistake. So with that said, those are some of the basics as it relates to folders. Really simple to create your own category and sort of management structure, as you can see. Now, right below folders, you'll notice what are called files. Now, think of files as sort of a temporary inbox. Maybe you've created something. You're not ready to make decisions about where to store it and how to manage it, but you just want to back it up and put it into the cloud and make sure it's safe and secure and accessible. So at any point in time, you can drag and drop any graphics file right into this window, anywhere in this window, and they'll begin to upload. You can batch upload, so you can multi-select files from your computer and upload multiple files at a time. But the reality is the files area, again, think of it as an inbox. I've uploaded content, but I haven't made decisions about how to organize and manage. At any point in time, you have the ability to hover your mouse over any file here, and you can multi-select files, and then you can make decisions about what to do. I can move the content into existing folders. I can add the content to an art approval. I can download or delete. So one bit of advice, think about making sure that you don't create a massive backlog of files that will live and persist in this area. You want to tend to this on a weekly cadence. Think about leaving your office on a Friday knowing that you've made decisions about cataloging and organizing files. So your inbox should never get hundreds and hundreds of files deep, although it certainly can. You want to keep this just like your email inbox. You want to process it in a way where you're not going to create this major backlog. So set up a routine where you're grooming files and making decisions about where they should live. And in some occasions, you might say, hey, we created this file to try to win some new business. We weren't able to get any follow-up or any traction, so we're going to delete. I would argue creating a folder that is an archive, where you have this sort of archive of things that aren't useful, but maybe you want to recall it in the future. Maybe 6 months from now, you want to go and follow up with that organization again as a secondary attempt. Well, it might be important to call up that logo. So you can delete, or you can choose to create an archive and stow that away and just keep that. There's no sense in deleting content given storage is so plentiful and inexpensive nowadays. So that's how to think about the My Art section, really straightforward. The last few things I'll point out is just some basics. At the very top, you can search. So if you type in anything, and notice as I begin to search, so I just typed in NA, well, GraphicsFlow immediately begins to find additional content that might relate or match. So with that said, a simple way to begin to search all of your files by folder, by individual files, by any of that description information you might have typed in. The other thing to contemplate here is the ability to filter. So I can see recent first, oldest first, A to Z, or reverse alphabetical order. And then lastly, I have the ability to view sort of by this grid system, which is default, or I can choose to do a list view, which sort of compacts way more information into my view as I scroll. So you can toggle between grid and list view, totally your preference. Lastly, there is an orange button here that just gives you a quick jump off point to make a decision about uploading a new file or creating a new folder. So you have a few different ways to make those decisions. All right, moving along here, let's now move into the art approvals workspace. Now, again, there's two ways to think about art approvals. The classical definition, creating an art approval, sending an art approval so my client can engage and communicate and collaborate, approve, reject, message. All of those things are possible within the GraphicsFlow art approval workflow. But I think that the most beneficial use case for art approvals is the ability to create an art presentation. So here's a hypothetical scenario. Maybe there's a really large church that's in my community, and maybe they're new, and I want to go and present to them some ideas to help them get some uplift and help promote their church, promote their mission, promote all the different maybe groups they have or the missionary organizations, whatever it might be. I can create a presentation and I can create some graphics that I think would be compelling or would help them see what options are available, and then present that to them to get a conversation started. So graphics can be a tremendous sales tool. And I think one of the biggest mistakes, traditional classical apparel decorators and promotional product distributors, they always think in terms of product. And if I just showcase a bunch of blank products to my customer and hope that they imagine what it would look like embellished or logoized with a cool graphic or theme. So, the notion is stop peddling products. And this has been a big theme in our industry for the longest time. Stop selling products, sell a solution. And if you think about it, most people are buying decorated products because of the graphic, the imprint, the logo. A corporate customer wants their staff to look professional with professional logo wear, right? A church wants a really cool graphic that talks about their brand and their identity and their mission. It's the graphic that sells the product. There is a relationship there, but the message, the identity, the brand, the creative, that's what gets people so excited, right? So with that said, let me kind of introduce you to the art approval workspace. It's really simple. When you log into, or you click rather, the art approvals workspace, you have fundamentally two main ways to look at art approvals. Open, meaning they're currently active and I'm processing them. And then you have an archived view. And an archive, like I explained earlier with the ability to create a folder called archive, are the art approvals that are concluded. You've successfully brought them to fruition. You have the ability to stow those away for future reference. There's no need to delete any of that content. So open means you're actively processing it and you're working on bringing it to a complete approval state. And then an archive, I like to think of archive as when the job has been done. My client has approved and we're ready to move into production. Notice here, I have the ability to see what's been approved. So there's a little label here on this Xavier Spartans cross-country apparel. Well, that might be my beacon to archive that particular art approval. It's been completed. We've moved on. I'm going to purge it and clear it from this view, but know that it's permanently stored and accessible in the future. Now, the other series of filters you have to help you make clear definition and reference, notice right below that I can toggle between all open art approvals, not approved, or I can click on approved. And I get to see how many live in that particular state. So there's 8 that are not yet approved, and there's 1 that is fully approved. So again, this is a really simple way to filter to say, hey, show me all of my approved art approvals. I'm going to go and archive those or delete or take action on those to keep this clean. And just like your files area in my art, you do not want to let this become bloated over time. You want to keep this cleansed to make sure that this is the stuff that you're actively working on. It has value to it. Now, the other sort of filter controls here are really simple. Sort by, so newest, oldest, last modified, alphabetical. And of course, you can drill down by team members. So you can really focus in on, hey, I have a colleague who's out on paternity leave. I want to focus on his or her art approvals and take action on those. So it's a great way to see by all team members or individualized team members. Now from here, all the art approvals or art presentations are organized into these little cards. And these cards give you a bunch of information at a quick glance. Of course, you have a little icon that identifies the initials for that particular art approval name. You see the name, you see the date last modified. And then moving to the right, you'll notice how much communication has been sort of interacted at this particular art approval. So you'll see a little beacon that there's 0, or in this case for the Xavier cross country, you can see that there's 1. Let me go back in time here. Now moving to the right, there's another really important beacon which shows you an indication of how many art files are in the art approval compared to how many have actually been approved. So in this topmost example, this Lutzen summer camp, 1 of 2 art approvals have been approved. So I might need to nudge my customer to say, hey, listen, you've approved the front imprint, but I need you to approve the back imprint. So it's a way, quick context, so you can take action properly. Now to the right of that, you'll see who the owner of this particular art approval is, meaning the team member that initiated or created. And in this case, I've created all of my art approvals, so it says JH. And then to the right of that, you'll see the collaborators, the people that were invited to participate in the art presentation or the art approval. Now, the last function that's available here is a quick little action dropdown where you can choose to add another collaborator. Maybe your client emailed you and said, hey, can you add another member to this, another colleague or whatever it might be. You have the ability to click add collaborator and you can input an email address, choose the permission that you wish to let that collaborator interact with this particular art approval. They can either comment, which just lets them communicate. They can have a share of voice, or they can approve, which gives them the ability to approve or reject, and also comment and interface from a collaboration perspective. So really simple way to add an additional collaborator without even having to open up the art approval. The last 2 controls here are archive, which we've already mentioned, and of course, delete. Now, I want to point out, again, unlike other digital asset management tools, that are generic, not built for the industry, we give you a very clear understanding of, the consequences of deleting stuff. And we make you validate that you truly want to take that action. You have to check 3 boxes to make sure you know exactly what's going to occur if you choose to delete before you can progress. So it's a safety, measure, if you will. And in my view, there's no good reason to delete anything given online storage is so cheap and so plentiful. With GraphicsFlow, your base GraphicsFlow membership comes with 25 gigs of content. That's a tremendous amount of storage. So archive is a great solution to keeping a permanent digital record of that particular art approval, because you never know when it could come useful in the future. All right, so let's go through the process of creating a new art approval from scratch. And to do that, I'll click the orange button that says Create New. And what happens when you click Create New, you're going to be delivered into this workspace where you sort of have a blank art approval. Now, your logo will be centered immediately at the very top. Of course, mine shows as GraphicsFlow because that's what I've uploaded. First order of business is to type in a title. And right below that is to type in a description. This is where you need to think about copywriting and make something clear, concise, and use, verbiage that's going to be clear to you and your team internally, but also it's going to make sense to your customer. So use the simplest language possible. So I'm going to use Cicero Prep, Cicero Prep, back to school, whatever it might be. I'm not very creative today, but again, type in something that is specific so your client knows what this means, and then build in a description and be human. Add go the extra mile and add a little bit of context here. Think about this as a pitch. Use some humor, use some personality to say, hey, Headmaster Allen, super excited to work with Cicero Prep. We love your mission and love what you're doing with your campus. We'd love to partner up and help to extend your mission visually through some killer branded merchandise for family, for the student body, and for faculty. So call out some reference here. Show that you understand your customer and what their needs are. Now, if you're pitching, you want to go to an organization and use artwork as a way to compel them to work with you. Think of using this as a way to say, hey, my team has organized some graphic ideas that we think would really help you promote your upcoming craft beer tournament or festival. We'd love to have a short 15-minute Zoom conference where we can share some ideas about products and about how we can work together to really execute the most amazing, merch tent, whatever it might be. Build some context here, go the extra mile and add some value. And I can tell you from my experience, when I, have somebody ping me on LinkedIn, they want to add me to their network, and when they actually take a moment to describe why they're choosing to add me to their network and they build some sort of context there, I'm more inclined to interact with them versus somebody that just is trying to sell me something, right? So use title and description as a way to add context and add value. It's really important, subtle, but important. Next, I can add collaborators. And again, this is where I can invite all the different folks that will participate in making a decision about this. Now, I want to point out that, GraphicsFlow will electronically via email deliver an art approval or an art presentation to your collaborators. But you also have the ability to grab a direct link. You can copy the link. And this is useful if you want to add this link into a third-party system. Maybe you want to add it into Inksoft. You want to add it into a manual email that you're composing that you're going to send out to a prospective client. So again, you can grab this link that goes direct to the art approval, and you can use that as a way to share and make that accessible in any third-party system. It doesn't matter. Production management software, you name it, you can make that accessible. Now it comes time to add content into the art approval. And there is a few key ways to do that. Number one, I can drag and drop anywhere into this surface, just simply drag and drop, and the file will be processed and uploaded. You can click upload, which obviously allows you to browse your file. You can then choose a logo that is relevant. So I can make a decision about, vector file or whatever it might be. I can choose a file, upload it, and it will process and appear. Now, the other thing I have the ability to do, I'm going to go ahead and remove this so I can show you the other ways that are just default from your primary workspace. Drag and drop, we can upload. I can also select my art, which allows you to leverage your digital asset management, your file storage. This is the other problem with using Google Drive or Dropbox or some of the other tools, is it's disconnected from your workflow. So here I can immediately say, hey, we need to go back to a customer and they're doing a new event. We need to put some ideas in front of them. I can go back to where the artwork is stored and managed and directly interface and tap in to that artwork. So that's the other ability, or rather continuity, that GraphicsFlow has to offer. I can tap directly into all of my art. Now, here comes the other exciting contemplation, is tapping into the 25,000 designs and clip art across hundreds of categories and subcategories and styles. This is one of the most exciting and most powerful things about GraphicsFlow. This is the thing that I believe to be worth $99 a month for alone. The ability to quickly search and find content to present to a customer. So if there's a wrestling tournament coming up, I can go grab maybe 6 or 12 really cool wrestling themes, and I can add those themes directly into an art presentation just to get the art conversation started. Hey, coach, let's choose a general theme. Once we drill down on a theme as a starting point, from there, we'll refine that and come back to you with 3 options. Now, if you've ever worked with a home builder, you've ever worked with any creative agency, marketing firm, whatever it might be, this is how it operates. Let's put a lookbook together and choose some themes. We'll create some options, and then we'll refine. So this is one of the most exciting features of GraphicsFlow, is the ability to quickly grab some themes, name those themes. So again, this is all about going from a generic file name to, Cicero, prep wrestling tournament or wrestling fundraiser, adding a description, 2-color imprint. We think your organization will love this theme. This is our staff pick if you had to ask for our advice. Again, this is a way to communicate and collaborate. So this is your opportunity to tap into a massive library of stock art content and put ideas in front of a prospective customer before your competitors can. Now, here's an important thing to contemplate. Our thesis is the print shop, the decorator, the promotional product distributor who is the first to respond to a customer's need is likely the first to win that business. And I've wanted to sort of conduct an experiment for the longest time. Imagine this. Imagine if you called 50 competitors in a metro area. So if we called 50 print shops in the screen print area, or excuse me, 50 screen print shops in the Phoenix area, and we, what percentage would we get voicemail? What is the follow-up procedure? And if the scenario is, hey, I'm a coach for a wrestling team, we're trying to raise money, we wanted to sell t-shirts, I need some graphic ideas. What would the experience be? How long would it take? Which print shops would just drop the ball, not even follow up altogether? So our thesis is, if you're the business that is the very first to respond with visual ideas and options, well, you're probably the business that will establish trust, will establish that you're easy to work with, will establish that you're innovative, that you use technology to communicate and make it easy to work with. Look at the upside. It's tremendous, right? Now, so we've kind of explored this workspace here, really straightforward. Once you compose an art approval, well, of course, now is the time to share that art approval and make sure you have all the right collaborators. And once that's done, GraphicsFlow immediately triggers a professional email, delivers that email to a customer where they can click to view. Now, if you're a new user to GraphicsFlow, I would recommend composing an art approval and sending it to a personal email address so you can see exactly what to expect. Make sure that you conduct that. I'm also going to point out that if you open up an art approval and you're logged into GraphicsFlow, you're going to see an admin view. It's not going to be what your customer sees. So it's important to log out and use maybe a separate browser or use the private browsing mode and see exactly what the end customer would experience. Now, some of the key actions in the event that you've already added art content. So again, if I go to clip art or go to a design idea and I add something, right into an art approval, you always have this icon at the very bottom right, this orange icon where you can, at any point, anytime, expose those options to upload content. So you can continue to add more and more options and more content. So if I want to grab a different wrestling theme, I have the ability to grab that particular theme and add it right into, that particular art approval. Also point out, you can choose when hovering over each of these little art approval cards, you can drag and drop or click the little arrow icons to choose which order things present. One quick pro tip here, sort order. Always, it's just like in journalism, don't bury the lead. Put the most important design first. So if you're presenting 5 concepts and you believe concept number 1 is the best, you and your team say, yes, this is the option that we would go with. This is one we think is the best. Rank. Tell your clients that in the description. Hey, we've ranked this from top to bottom, our staff favorites. If you asked us for our opinion, the very first one, titled option 1, is the one that we think you ought to pursue, and we think that you'd be most satisfied with. So there is some value in presenting this in a logical sequence, right? Now, the last function here is at the very top where it's actions. Now, you can choose to display watermarks by default, and you display watermarks on any of your custom content. Watermarks don't display on stock artwork. You can choose to archive and you can choose to delete. So all of that function is available at each individual art approval. All right, so I'm going to backtrack now that we've talked about art approvals. Let's talk about stock art. This is what likely represents the single most source of value in GraphicsFlow. And as mentioned, Digital Art Solutions spent 28 years developing vector-based content at the cost of millions of dollars, likely a year, if not more, to develop this content. Producing professional content is not inexpensive, right? And to have a huge backlog and massive quantities of content, is super valuable. Well, all of that content is now at your disposal and at your fingertips. So you can search, you can filter based on category. So notice all the different categories that display here. So I can go directly into a particular category, like schools. I can choose a subcategory, and that will then display whatever content is available in that particular category. And you can multi-select to really drill down and see what's present. And then from here, I can hover my mouse over a file and I can do a number of things. I can add to an art approval. I can download a high-resolution raster file, or I can download a CorelDRAW or an Adobe Illustrator file. And that will directly download to my computer, and I'm free to edit and modify that file. And then I can upload it back into my art, or I can even add it to an art approval. So all of this artwork is set up to be sort of templatized, where you can quickly modify it. Of course, all the fonts are available. So any of the fonts used in the templates are here. You can download and install those on your computer. So in terms of workflow, think about this. If you need to present something to a client, search and find things that you think would be relevant and present to a client. When they signal, hey, we love option number 1, the next logical step would be to download that file and maybe create 3 different permutations of that file that are personalized. Introduce their colors, their styling, of course, modify the text to be personalized to their organization. And then, of course, you can re-upload that and present it back for final approval. So you can see the continuity of GraphicsFlow. We're taking the things that have normally been separated. Maybe artwork is stored separately and managed separately from your file management. Art approvals are done using a template in CorelDRAW or Adobe Illustrator, and that's disconnected from art content and art storage. So my hope is today that you can see how these things that are normally disconnected and separated, meaning that creates just extra steps, extra friction, extra opportunities to make mistakes. There's continuity. These things are now tethered together. And that's what we mean about graphics productivity platform, bringing the things together in a simple workspace to get the job done. So with that said, a colleague has just reminded me that I have another obligation that I have to attend to. So I need to, unfortunately, conclude today's webinar. It went a little bit longer than I anticipated today, but hopefully you can tell I'm really excited about this new technology. We've been actively developing this for about 1.5 years now, and we are very excited about the release and what this means for the future of our industry and, of course, our business. So with that said, what I'm going to do, because I'm not going to be able to get to everybody's questions today, I'm going to have our team make sure to follow up with each and every one of you to make sure that you understand GraphicsFlow, if address any questions you might have, and sort of take the conversation from there. So folks, I really appreciate you sharing your time with us and tuning in today. I hope you are as excited as we are. I can assure you that we have a dedicated staffed team that's going to continue to iterate and add brand new features and functions. I can't spill the beans, and I'm not going to steal thunder and tell you the things that we're planning to deliver this year and in the short term, but also in the long term. We're just getting started, and we're just scratching the surface. There are so many cool things that we will do from a technology perspective to add even more value to GraphicsFlow. So with that said, if you do want to know more, there are some additional videos. If you go to graphicsflow.com, I would encourage you to check out the blog to learn more about that best practice file management. We're going to continue to do blog postings to create some education around some best practices and ways to think about graphics productivity, how to use art content to sell. So make sure to tune into that. And you can always request a demo. So if you want to go deeper and learn more, be sure to head to graphicsflow.com, where you can request your own personalized tour of the platform. And our team would be happy to spend whatever time is required to make sure you fully understand what's on offer here. Well, again, folks, thanks for tuning in, and look forward to future webinars together and writing blog posts. I'm really fired up about what this technology has to offer our industry. So once again, thank you very much. Have a great Friday, and by all means, enjoy your weekend. Thanks, folks.